engage. We want people to do things to make their own lives better. Whatever that happens to be. It might just be, picking up garbage on the street outside your home if there's garbage there, or going to, with an environmental organization and do a beach cleanup. It can be as little as, little actions make big differences. And you start with a little action, and then, you realize that it actually is empowering.
So I'm very happy to be here with you today, Nina Streich. You are the founder and festival director for Global Peace Film Festival, also Global Peace 360. So let's kind of start from the beginning a little bit. So your relationship with film dates back to your roles as a film editor and producer for major studios and independent features. So what connected you to film and storytelling?
My mother told me when I was very little that she knew I was going to go into film because from the first time I saw a screen, she couldn't get me away from it. So it goes back way further than my early career as a film editor.
So that's from started as a child.
Started the first time I saw a screen.
So you flash forward, you've done plenty of work for other festivals, but then you created the Global Peace Film Festival in 2003. From my understanding, it was in response to the Iraq War, but you
Correct.
say, in quote here, I didn't want to do something that was centered around or against the war. I wanted to create a festival that showed a positive vision of peace, and a festival where rather than seeing films and then going home, the films programmed inspired people. So why was that your focus of making sure that this festival stood out to where it didn't just involve people watching films, but it inspired them to make some sort of change in their community?
This actually also goes back to my childhood, where one of my, I call him life mentors, who was blacklisted in the McCarthy era, told me that film could change the world. And from that moment on, I wanted to make a film that changed the world. And when I was little, I wanted to be a director, but as I grew up, I realized that's not my skill set. And I sort of was very much behind the camera, but producing was more where I could, where I came together. And so just happened to turn out that I fell into doing film festivals.
Yeah.
And when the opportunity arose to create the Global Peace Film Festival, I was actually hired to create it by a businessman who had business interests in Central Florida. He's actually a New York businessman. I was like, this is great. This is a way to put my two loves together: film, media communications, and not electoral politics, but issue-based organizing. And so from the very beginning, I really not only wanted to have a positive vision, but have a vision where people were inspired to do something about what they'd seen, whatever that happened to be. I never wanted us to tell people. I wanted people to find their paths.
Now you yourself live in New York, but the festival is held here in Central Florida. So what is it about this place that you feel helped support the festival the way it's been going for the past 23 years? Why Central Florida?
Well, it wasn't my decision. And when I was hired to create it, I didn't know the area code here, so I knew nobody here. And what I found was very divergent. It was either people who would almost whisper to me that they wanted to be involved. They wanted to be my friend because they were hungry for something like it. And the other side was people who in 2003 got in my face and said, "Why do you hate George Bush?" or something like that. And I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and that, which has been called the Upper Left Side. So I had never faced I mean, we argue politics all the time. We argue issues all the time. We argue arts all the time. We argue all sorts of things. But it was always the same, with general agreement. And all of a sudden, I was confronted by people who diametrically opposed my views. And I found that really interesting and important. And back to the film To Change the World, you don't make change by staying in your comfort zone. And this was definitely not my comfort zone. I'd never had that kind of experience. And so that was why I persevered, because the early years, the businessman who hired me went out of business literally a month before the first festival. So the early years were a real struggle, but I felt it was worth it because I felt it could make change in the community.
How did you, or how were you able to continue the vision with him no longer being in business and it being now solely on you? How did you move forward?
Well, there was some, it's actually a long story, but I was able to scrape up some money for the second year, downsized dramatically, was able to get a venue that I just had to split the ticket income. For people who have lived here for a long time, the Boomtown Media Arts Center, DMAC, which was in the Rogers building on Pine and Magnolia, is now City Arts. They had a screening room. The upstairs was a screening room, and that was what we used. I just had to split the ticket income with them. And so that was, that's what got through the second year. The third year, the founder had donated a car for my use when I was down here. I sold it. I sold the car to pay for the festival to somebody who was actually charitable, and he knew he upped the value based on, how much tax write-off he was going to get. So for the donation. So that was year 3.
And then it just went.
And then year 4 I had, the first year I'd brought down a couple of UN dignitaries, and when I got back home, they said, come meet with us. We really think you need to do this festival in Japan. And it took a couple of years to come together. But for 3 years, we had a Global Peace Film Festival Japan, which they really organized, but we programmed some films for them, and they paid a fee as well as paying for my assistants and some dignitaries' trips to Japan for the festival. And that actually upped that was like a lot of money compared to selling the festival for the sale of the car.
Yeah.
And then it started picking up, thanks to Orange County being very supportive of the arts. We got our first cultural tourism grant from Orange County, started a relationship with Rollins College, which has grown over the years. This was our 20th year at Rollins, and kept going.
Alma mater, Rollins.
Oh, didn't know that.
I know that the festival showcases narrative films, but there is like
mainly documentaries. Right. It's very few narratives.
Right. Mostly documentary focused. Do you think that documentary films are those films that sort of like inspire people to think about things deeply or differently and then make change in their communities?
I think documentaries have a different way of reaching people. People are more reluctant to come to see a documentary in a theater. I mean, I've always said that, documentaries are the real reality television. I don't watch, the sort of Real Housewives, any of that stuff. But documentaries are real life, and I also, when you put a documentary about a person against, say, the narrative of the film that was inspired by the documentary of the same person, I always find the narrative more compelling. I mean, the documentary more compelling because the narrative, basically some of the facts are changed, accentuated, dramatized, or left out. And bottom line, what's, the progression of the story. So many documentaries, you don't know where it's going. So I just find the art form, film form, really a fantastic medium. So really the reason why we do focus on documentaries so much is they do have models. We look for films with models of things that people are doing that will inspire other people to either replicate that model or use it as a stepping stone to create their own model and do something. So, it's just, I always do want to have narratives, which sometimes we don't have a single narrative in the program, but narrative, more people are inclined to come to a narrative film, which is one of the reasons I'm excited about Urban Fest 360, because that brings more narratives into our festival world.
That's a question we can pivot to that, because I'll ask you about that anyway. So, this year you expanded and added Urban Fest 360 to the program. So why was it important for you to add that element to the overall Global Peace Film Festival?
For many reasons. First of all, what's going on in the world. I mean, with the sort of DEI being essentially squashed. Don't want to do that. We still have to do that. There's still, diversity is, how can any country not be diverse? And so it brings an added level. We've always been a diverse festival. We've always been a multicultural festival. We've always been, embraced everyone. But it was important to not like in a sort of celebratory, it was important to, in a celebratory way, expand to really highlight the urban.
In person.
Yeah.
So as movie watchers, we watch for like entertainment. We want to connect, or we want to feel something, or connect to a character. But from your perspective, why do you think we should go beyond that? Go beyond just being a watcher and being more active and taking more of a stand in from the art that we see?
Well, I mean, this comes from my political hat. Participatory democracy, which is what we aspire to be as a country. There's two words in that. Participation is the first word. Yeah. And so many people don't participate. And that's one of the reasons wherein, what's going on now is going on, because either people don't participate at all, or they just basically listen to one thing and vote according to not their own learning about the whole, both sides. So participation is critical. And I mean, basically that's it. We want people to engage. We want people to do things to make their own lives better. Whatever that happens to be. It might just be, picking up garbage on the street outside your home if there's garbage there, or going to, with an environmental organization and do a beach cleanup. It can be as little as, little actions make big differences. And you start with a little action, and then, you realize that it actually is empowering.
Yeah. Global Peace has been around for over 20 years.
Yeah.
So what impact do you think the festival has had across generations?
I mean, we have a broad diversity of ages who come. The interesting thing is the number of young people who come to our festival. Generally, we do a lot of surveying and, we need statistics for grant reporting as well as figuring out that we're programming films that people respond to. And year over year, we've had roughly 40% of the audience under the age of 35, which is unlike, that is not a film festival demographic.
Yeah.
We have a small number of people under 18. The majority is, the roughly 40% are mostly between the ages of 18 and 34. And that's a hard demographic to reach. For baby boomers, a lot of them, it brings back their years when they were activists.
Yes.
And for the under 35, we hope it inspires them to become activists. Whatever whatever that activism is, it doesn't have to be, demonstrating, getting arrested. It doesn't have to be
on the front lines.
Yeah.
Just any way that you can be a part of the conversation in a real and active way.
And to also continue to learn. To be inquisitive, to search.
We talk about global peace, but what does global peace look like to you? Do you think that we're closer to achieving that, or do you think we have a lot more work to do?
Oh, there's always going to be a lot more work. I mean, global peace is aspirational. What we look for is to build a culture of peace and understanding that we disagree with each other, but disagreeing agreeably, basically, having respect for people. Every step that we take. I don't think we'll ever get to global peace, but because it is aspirational, but it's critical that we strive, and critical that we continue to aspire.
Well, what do you think, or what do you hope your legacy will be in the next 20 years of the festival?
Oh, I have no idea. When we hit 20, when we were approaching the 20th year, I was like, I'm not getting any younger. It's hard to run a nonprofit organization from, almost 1,000 miles away. And I don't believe that, I needed to find a transition. I needed to turn it over to somebody. And fortunately, I found David Wheeler, who wanted to run a arts nonprofit. And we really we took a long time. We were very deliberate about the transition. But he's local. And I wanted somebody local. I had for a long time wanted somebody local to take the reins of the organization. And I have always felt that if I couldn't I couldn't turn over the leadership to somebody else, then I would not have truly succeeded. So I look forward to the time when I can actually step away completely and it carries on without me. As we were, working on how to make the transition from me to him, I said, I can't wait for you to do the first thing that I never thought of. And I very much hold to that, because the roots are what I planted.
But would you step away, Nina?
I will, yeah.
You would?
Uh-huh. I mean, I'm not going to, nobody's going to be around forever, so one day, I actually have a plan in my own head.
Yeah.
That I don't share.
Okay, I'm not gonna pry because
You won't get it out of me.
Last question for you. So, for anyone out there that wants to be, an activist or a peace practitioner or something of that nature, through art, media, film, and they want to be a part of the global peace mission, what advice would you give to those people, and how best would they be able to join what you created?
Sign up for our newsletter, contact us, talk about tell us what they want to do. Where I see the role of the Global Peace Film Festival as kind of a conduit role. I would suggest for people, rather than, definitely sign up for us, and follow what we're doing, come to films, but find an organization that moves them, that speaks to them, and support that organization. The way I've built the organization, because, in the early years and actually throughout my tenure, money was always really tight. And we've always depended on collaborative partnerships with a wide variety of organizations, with other arts organizations, everything from Timucua Arts Foundation to the Holocaust Center of Central Florida to the Enzian Theater, to the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra, and on and on and on. But also, even more important, and we just presented the award to the Peace and Justice Institute that I've been on the advisory council of since it started. And Rachel Allen, their executive director, just said, it's been 17 years we've been working together. So there's them. We work with the League of Women Voters because a lot of the films we show touch on issues that they're actively working on. The Farm Worker Association, the Hope Community Center up in Apopka. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. Yeah. And so what I think people should do is find something that moves them, that inspires them to do something, and then come to us to say, do you have a film about this? For filmmakers or for aspiring filmmakers, Barbara Koppel said to you when you asked that, a question about, what should they do? Just start, just do it, and it's like, I tell that, I get a lot of people coming up to me with an idea for a film, usually from an organization, and I say, start on your phone. If you miss it, it's gone. It doesn't, as she said, it doesn't exist. So you just got to do it.
Oh, well, I'm glad you just did this when it came to creating the festival. This is my first time here, and I've enjoyed it thus far. Thank you so much for having us and taking the time to sit with me today. So
it's been my pleasure.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.